Hello, this is Mike Farley, Poolside Perspective Podcast. We want to thank you all for tuning in with us today, and we have an exciting episode today.
Oh, yeah, we do.
We always have an exciting episode, though.
We have help this time, though.
Lots of help.
Oh, the most we've had so far.
Roundtable discussion.
Yep, the roundtable hold of designers.
Yes, it'll be exciting.
It will. The last week, though, we've been busy. Holiday season has been full speed ahead.
Yeah, wore me out not going into work.
Yeah, it's nice. But now we have to go back to work.
Yeah, well, it is a fun time of the year, although I do have to put up a whole front yard of Christmas lights, and that's going to probably take me the rest of the week.
Well, it's a little different than normal, too, because you actually have to, get a stone tied to the stone, a little, fishing string, throw it in the tree, and pull the lights up into the big old oak trees. So
yeah, so we hang real lighted balls, 2-foot ones up in the tree. It's fun.
It's like Christmas ornaments in the tree. It's cool. But what are we talking about today?
Designers.
Designers. Okay.
Yeah, those people that create those marvelous environments that people get to have in their backyard.
Oh yeah.
If they get one, and if they don't have one yet, then they need to find one.
They do, and these people would be great. So Poolside Perspective, I think this is a really cool episode because we're going to get a lot of different perspectives.
That is for sure. So we will jump in and get to learn about all these guys that are here.
Here we go. Rance Schindler from Denton, Texas. He's 30 years old and he has been in the pool industry for 6 years. He graduated from Oklahoma State University with a degree in fire protection and safety engineering. Rance was featured in the Pool Pro magazine 2020 30 under 40 at the age of 26. He won the 2022 $1 million pool challenge at age 28 and has been featured multiple times in Pool, Aqua, and local magazines. Currently, he works as a senior designer, salesman, and project manager for Verde Pools out of Roanoke, Texas.
Brad Holley is a 2-time finalist of the $1 Million Pool Challenge and the 2023 winner. But his path to the outdoor and pool design was just an accident. The greatest accident of his entire life. His passion for 3D modeling and design led him to stumble into the privilege of an 8.5-year mentorship with Randy Angel, arguably the greatest outdoor designer in America. During that time, Randy gave him a master's class on pool layouts, structural design, aesthetics, and architecture. When it comes to pool and outdoor living in the social media landscape, there's no presence as ambiguous or sensational as Foxterra Design. Brad currently serves as one of their senior designers, and when he's not designing backyards that people love, he's spent an invaluable time with his wife and 2 boys, and maybe even daydreaming about creating another cryptic, multi-city spanning treasure hub. Sounds like fun.
It does. As a native Texan, Moses loves the opportunity to help people find the perfect backyard for cooling off during these hot summers. He's passionate about achieving a unique look beyond the traditional Texas-style pool that we've seen over the years. Something that fits the neighborhood and the DFW area, but also steps into a more modern outdoor living environment. He enjoys turning the backyard into an extension of the home, bringing the inside style of the home outside. His goal is to listen to what is truly important to his clients and offer unique, out-of-the-box ideas that a new pool owner might not even know are possible. This process includes incorporating the aesthetic of a home with the homeowner's style to create a natural flow. Working as a designer and consultant for Claffey Pools is a great fit for Moses. It helps his clients in both the creative and construction process, and keeping those two as a high priority is important to him.
There's a story behind how you got into the pool industry. We'd like to hear the story. So why don't you start us off, Brad?
Oh, all right. Put me in the hot seat.
Yes.
So happy to be a part of this $3 million roundtable you got going here today.
Yes.
Can we call it that?
That's cool.
That'd be cool. Yeah. So since you are all, for our audience that doesn't know, I guess we should say that, is all 3 of you happen to be local. And all 3 of you are the winners of the $1 Million Pool Challenge the last 3 years. And all 3 of you got $10,000 as the first prize winner. So, Rance was the first one that did that. And then you did it last year, Brad. And then Moses just did that. So anyway, so tell us your story on how you got to that point, or at least how you got into the pool industry.
Oh, wow. I was actually a Discount Tire for 7 years, kind of, slinging tires. And I was in kind of their management training program there for a while. And for anybody that's ever been in a retail job, just the burnout is real. And ended up following a friend from there, followed him to a construction company where they focused on doing renovations for like really big apartment communities. And a couple years into that job, we had this client that we were going to renovate this auto shop for, and he had designed his own renovation using SketchUp. And I had never heard of this, but he was showing us his design that we were going to be building out for him. And I was completely blown away, because I didn't know that 3D modeling was so accessible to anybody and everybody. And at the time, there was like, you could get this really powerful free version of SketchUp. So I downloaded it on like every machine that I had, and I was playing with it all the time and was trying to find ways to incorporate it into my work. And one day I was like Google searching how to do something for SketchUp, and one of the search results was actually a job listing. I wasn't even looking for a job, but I got really curious because it said you'd be able to use SketchUp like 80% of the time. And so I pursued it, and that was the job was to be the assistant to a well-known pool designer. I didn't know anything about pools, but yeah, a couple interviews later, I got the job, and that was with Randy Angel, and ended up spending the next 8.5 years. Like you said in the intro, it was a master class on design. He taught me. I was a total blank slate, and he brought me up to speed and taught me everything about outdoor design, swimming pools, landscape architecture, all that.
Wow. Wait, were you his first assistant?
No, I don't think I was his first.
Okay.
I think he probably had a couple others in the past.
Okay. Well, that's cool. So, Rance, how did you end up here?
So I went to Oklahoma State, got a degree in...
Go Cowboys.
terrible year.
Oh, Texas Tech beat them.
Football's rough this fall.
It was.
So went to Oklahoma State, got a degree in fire protection and safety engineering. To be honest, I thought I was going into the oil field after school. That's just all I kind of knew from my parents growing up. And I was like, all right, well, I need to pick a degree that I can always have a job to kind of rely back onto if need be. Graduated, had an engineering job straight out of school, went to work in Dallas, 40 hours a week, sitting in a cubicle, reviewing engineering plans. Absolutely hated my life. Was not what I need to do. I need to be more active, kind of all over the place. Well, after 6 months, I had enough money saved up to survive for about 3 to 4 more months. Said, I'm out of here with no plan at all. Thankfully, called Reed. He knew some connections in the pool industry. I saw what he was doing. Reed's my older brother. He'd been working for Claffey for 10 plus years, working under Mike for a long time. And it looked like he was having a lot more fun than I was. So I was like, hey, how do I get into this industry? I don't care what I do at all. I can can clean pools. I can do the smallest, lowest level on the totem pole job. I want to get into this industry. It looks a lot more fun. Well, thankfully, Reed had some connections. He made a call, and I also had a buddy who I work with now, Colby Walding. He helped me get a job at Hawk Custom Pools out of Salina, and they just kind of threw me in there, gave me enough pay for the first month, 2 months until I could sell my first pool, and I just had to kind of go through the fire, sell some pools, figure it out on the way, and that's about it.
Awesome.
And here we are.
I, in my 20s, did a lot of traveling. I did work as a graphic designer doing small, odd design work for an ad agency, or first out of school, I did a wedding company. I did all their video editing and all that kind of stuff. So I had a lot of experience with that kind of software. And I did that in my 20s, and that was a lot of fun. but there was a grind, and you're just kind of always, trying to find new work. I started going to a church that had, not exaggerating, about 15 people that are all in the pool industry, all different companies. So I remember specifically, I was at a friend's house, and I was like, man, this guy must be doing well. Like, he has a house and he's doing all, wow, this is cool. So the pool industry, I never heard of that. So like a lot of people I hear, you kind of stumble into the pool industry. Either you're born into it, or you just accidentally answer a Craigslist ad, or you say, whatever, like, hey, I just got to, I want to do something different. So it was like that. I had an opportunity, and someone, actually, the company I first started at was called Southern Wind Pools. They had a technician whose license expired. So this is how random it is. You just stumble into it. His driver's license expired, and he said, basically they didn't want to fire him. There's something that happened, and he needed to have someone drive him for 2 weeks. So I got hired at Southern Wind first to drive them for 2 weeks, because again, I went to church with the service manager, and he was like, hey, you kind of do your own schedule. Do you want to do this? And I said, sure. After that, he said, hey, you don't have to do anything, just drive. But if you want to help. So I learned what a Jandy valve was. I learned how to prime a pump, those kind of things, because I was inquisitive and it was fun. So I had a design background, and there was kind of this talk of like, well, if you ever wanted to maybe work towards getting to design, it might take you 5-10 years or something like that. I said, well, if you guys are hiring, I would love to work there. So I worked there for about 8 months. And at that time, I guess just my dedication to the job or that company, they said, hey, you know what? We've hired the last 2 experienced pool salespeople, and they weren't a right fit. Maybe we just need to start with someone who's totally moldable. Would you be interested? And I said, absolutely. I thought this would take me like 5-10 years. So in 8 months' time, I was a startup technician. I did I did routes. Like, I was like a gopher. So like, I would drive, an hour and a half to go do like a 30-minute thing here and whatever, they just sent me all over. So I learned a lot, and definitely took that into learning, what it would take to design backyard spaces. But I think the experience I had with software, like yours with SketchUp, I mean, just being inquisitive about the software made it really easy to go into designing a space and thinking in that creative way. But yeah, just like a lot of people, I just fell into the industry in the sense of I was just driving a technician for 2 weeks. That's how I got into it. So, and then I've now 2 years ago I stepped into Claffey, and it's been a great fit. And that was a really cool opportunity to get to work alongside a different team, and definitely gave me more experience going into a challenge that's this big of a space to think in that that way.
That's cool. There's like 2 topics that kind of we've with y'all's introductions to like the industry that kind of we talked about a little bit, or y'all did, which would be, what was the best training or education you received that helped you to succeed in this field? And then also, if we just talk about like, what 3D modeling program do y'all prefer?
I love Pool Studio, and I have flirted with some of the other softwares. And actually, Brad and I had talked a little bit not too long ago about going from one software to the other. And I mean, he was encouraging, because he's like a master at SketchUp. So to me, being able to hear like the pros and cons between someone who's that experienced with it, and I feel very, experienced with Pool Studio now at this point. So I'm going to stay with Pool Studio. And I'd say the thing that really helped me was some of those free online just to get started. And I actually still keep up with, her name is Joan Fowler. We're friends on Facebook. If you've ever taken a class from Structure Studio, she probably was one of them. And so I don't know, one of the instructors. And so it's cool to still, even like when I won the $1 Million Pool Challenge this year, see her comment and say like, congratulations. And it's just like, it's an encouragement thing. So I'd say anything that Structure Studios has offered, even though it's just kind of a small entry point, it's really a good thing for knowing the software.
Do you think she's the voice of the YouTube tutorials?
If she's not, you know what? I would probably say yes. Yeah, hands down.
Probably 50%. There's like 2 of them that like always do it.
Yeah. No, she was always really helpful. I think I met her once at one of the shows, because they'll have booths there every so often. Mm-hmm. I think she was at one.
She used to come to all the shows.
Yeah. She's very cool. And I think too, like, just learning this industry, there's a lot of people who are more involved. I shouldn't say a lot. there's a certain group of people that are more involved than others, and she was definitely one for sure in the sense of just keeping up with people and talking.
I never did any classes.
Okay.
I saw him on Structure Studio, kind of listened at first. What I did to learn Structure Studios was I printed off their commands and doing the shortcut keys.
Yeah.
And I put that right in front of my laptop, and I sat there every day, and I forced myself. If I was drawing a line, I'd sit there and click the letter A, draw a line, circle, and I would just force myself to do it until I basically knew those commands and could hit every shortcut very quickly. YouTube, I mean, that's how I learned SketchUp and Lumion and Twinmotion. Some of those Structure Studios, by far what I'm best at and fastest at. And I would say if anybody's still learning those, to absolutely learn their shortcuts, because they will save you so much time. And realistically, if you just do it for 2 to 3 days, you will have those shortcuts memorized, and it'll make your designs go by 3-4 times faster for sure.
What's your favorite shortcut?
Q, which just clears everything.
Yeah, that's cool.
Well, that's what I have an eraser for, but that takes me a while longer.
Yeah. You have to have a good eraser too, or you still see it. You know?
Yeah. He's got the electric one. Where you just go ham on the paper. What about you, Brad?
So, I mean, I spent all that time on SketchUp, and it was only recently I had to switch over to Structure Studios, and so I feel like I'm seeing both sides here. I still very much miss SketchUp, but I can see the strength that come with Structure Studio VIP 3D. It's for sure it's going to be the fastest way to go through design iterations, but I think when it comes to just like ultra customization, like all those fine details, SketchUp is untouchable. Nothing comes close to it. Just being able to just freely draw in 3D and really hone in on those like little perfect details and lines, like SketchUp is, that's where it's at.
Yeah,
So
I agree.
I definitely miss it, but
Well, and there's a SketchUp library that you go to get all the fun things that Pool Studio doesn't have. At least that's what they tell me. So
Yeah.
that's true.
Yeah, but like what you're saying, it's fun because that SketchUp library, you might spend, just as much time searching for the perfect bookshelf than as if you were just really comfortable saying like, okay, no, I'm gonna just click away and make my own. So
yeah.
have you made a bookshelf in SketchUp?
Oh man, I could probably list more quickly the things that I haven't had to make inside SketchUp.
What's the oddest thing that you've had to make that you actually showed a client?
Oh boy, the oddest thing. Oh, that's a good question. I've made a ton of like custom furniture, and even some. Oh, actually, I do know what it is. I did a design for a family, and they wanted to do like a big raised feature wall, and I made this. Well, let me back up. Their son in high school, he was in a welding class, and he made this really cool sculpture out of just like junk, like just I don't know, iron or steel pieces. Yeah, just scraps. It turned out really cool, and I think Matthew Larkham actually went to measure the sculpture because I had forgotten to. So thanks, Matthew. And he gave me all the measurements on it, and I ended up modeling this sculpture that was made of scrap pieces, and it ended up looking pretty close to the real thing. And so I made this big raised, like water feature wall that had a big like window cut out with like a scalloped edge, and like a big like a rain curtain coming down. And this sculpture was on a pedestal just in front of it. It was kind of like uplit through the water. That was probably the oddest thing that I ever had to model.
Yeah. It's good answer.
Oh, yeah. That's very detailed.
So in the design process, as you go through things, what's the most fun for you to do?
I'll jump on the answer first if you guys,
Go for it.
I'm looking forward to your response.
I'm waiting to hear what you say.
I think the most fun is when you have a client who like trust your process. So there's a little bit more, it's a respect. It's not about me wanting the respect, but it's more like if I'm going to help them, I need to know a little bit more of the liberties that they're going to let me take. So you'll have some clients who really already know that going in, and they'll say like, you know, almost in a trust tree kind of way, like I'm just going to fall into what you want to do. And it's not about, okay, now I do whatever I want. It's about now I get to ask them questions that they've already lowered their guard a little bit more quickly. Where most of the time it's like, this is like dating. You're like having to like kind of politely ask a lot of like initial questions to get to know. But imagine like you're on a first meeting and they're just a lot more open to, look, I want something a little bit more fitting to what we're going to do. Let me tell you what that is. And then you run with it. That's an exciting thing in the design process for sure.
I always just tell people when they ask, you know, what's my process? And I always describe it as it's like playing with Legos. It's as though somebody has just dumped out a pile of Legos in front of you with no instructions, because people will ask me, you know, through the kind of the interview process before we start the design. It's like, you know, do you kind of have like a general idea of, you know, what you're going to do? And a lot of times the answer is no, not yet.
Yeah,
I'm going to figure it out though. Yeah.
I agree. On that same point, it's sometimes you have no idea. It's nice when the clients absolutely have some type of idea. I prefer it if they do show me like the Pinterest boards or Instagram posts, and they have a little bit of an idea. I personally work best when there's slope, and I'm excited when I go to a backyard and I see slope falling off, or I see slope going up to the back fence or anything like that. It just gives you a lot more design aspects that you can really mess with, and that's what I like the 3D program, where I feel like if you are doing more of like a hand sketch, kind of like Mike does, it may be harder to portray that and show the client exactly what you're thinking, whereas the 3D and you have slope, you can just see it perfectly, and then you can even, if you get your topo right and your heights, you can plan ahead for that and build everything perfectly to that yard. So that's a cool thing for me.
Yeah, homeowner's not going to like the price tag, but it's so much fun. We really bring us your slopes.
Yeah,
we
elevation.
like slopes.
Elevation's great. No, it's elevation's fun when people see it as like, oh, but we have a lot of elevation, like they're saying it like a negative.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And when they're talking to some people, I'm sure it is. They're probably kind of hitting them over the head. You know, there's a lot of meetings that they'll have before they even get to meet with us sometimes. So I always kind of say there's like baggage they're bringing in, and you know, it's fun to be like, to answer your question, it's fun to kind of let someone know like, no, this is a good thing. Like that's not bad. Like we're gonna have fun with it. So,
Yeah.
100%. Hillside's much better than a flat lot any day.
Oh yeah.
And that's why I have someone that draws my stuff after I finish it in a 3D modeling program. So nobody's going to look at my sketch and understand what's going on at all. I'm the first to understand that.
Oh,
so.
it's funny when he's in the meeting and he tries to explain it. He's like, you get it? And they're always confused, like, is this all we're going to get? And he's all right, let's switch to 3D now. And they're like, oh, thank God.
Yeah. Now we bring in the big guns.
Yeah, it's hilarious.
No, I talk about concept, two-dimensionally.
They get that part, but they're like, is this just going to be bubbles or?
Oh, no, we have something beyond bubbles.
Yeah. Conceptually, there's going to be water somewhere.
Yeah. That's what you hired me for, right?
Yeah.
So what is this?
So, not being able to see inside of it, this is a custom-made burner. They're out of Colorado. It's called Warming Trends, and it's a brass fitting burner. And if you look at what we call, these are called flutes because they actually look like a flute if you turn it sideways. It has an air mix hole here. These burners are used in commercial sites, common areas. Now they've taken into residential housing, and they're very popular. Why are they popular? The flame lift is a lot taller than a stainless steel burner. You don't have to have a lot of pressure with this burner. So if a customer comes in and says, hey Bobby, I'm lacking pressure, I have a very low flame, then what they can do, they can put this burner in, and what happens is it has an air mix, and it doesn't take a lot of pressure, but what happens is that it mixes with the gas and gives a higher flame. Secret, like we talked about, or you mentioned, we don't want to load the glass over the burner. We want to load the glass up to the flutes so they're not exposed. When you do that, it just gives a more robust and warm flame. So I can use this small pattern, this footprint, of this burner, put it in a vestibule or put it in a table fire pit, and the flame is not 3 or 4 times greater than just a standard stainless steel burner.
Wow.
Previous life, here was the issue though with this burner. You had to have a lid on it, because what would happen is if I did an automated system or electronic system, it would literally pull water into it. Now they have, this is a new product, it's about 2 to 3 months old, it's called a weather beater. And it has a diaphragm inside of it, so it allows the gas to go through the diaphragm, and then the flap shuts so the water doesn't trap back and fall down into the valve body system and electronic module. So now I can sell this without the cover. We always recommend covers, but if it's a vestibule that's going to be perimeter, and you have the big pools that you build, and you have a half a dozen fire pits, then we're not going to want to go out there and cover every fire pit. So these weather beaters have the diaphragm that I would recommend that you put in there so water doesn't trap inside the burner itself.
Nice.
Yeah.
So we're going to get a bigger flame with
Larger
less
flame.
pressure.
Less pressure, larger flame, and this is a solution for customers who put in a stainless steel burner and just can't get that flame that they need. So.
And what's Warming Trends?
Warming Trends out of Colorado.
Okay.
All custom made. They can do serpentine burners, they can do linear burners. They now put burners into fireplaces, but it's more of commercial type robust flame for residential.
Awesome. Well, thank you.
The next segment we'll do is about the $1 Million Pool Challenge specifically. So let's just go around real quick and just say how many times you entered before you actually won the challenge. And that'll pretty much build a starting point for this segment.
I entered twice and I won the second time.
Okay.
I entered 3 times before I won, and then I entered again this year and got like 6th or 7th around there. But yeah, it took a while to get that first win.
Yeah, I entered twice, and then I won the second year.
Okay.
So I don't know of anybody that's ever entered it and won it. Well, actually, I guess the first year.
That makes sense.
Sure.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Was it? I'm wondering, when y'all did win, was there like a big difference between like the first submission you did? Was it like an effort level, or you just think your skills just went up?
I think it's both. I mean, I think the 3 of us have had a chance to talk about it too, and I've pressed on the theory, and I think there was agreement. It's really about just understanding clients, but then also understanding the competition. So it makes sense your first year, you're kind of like, well, let's see what happens. And then the second year, you're like, okay, I think I get this a little bit more. And so I think, I didn't know you'd entered 3 years.
Yep.
But
Since
it
the
makes
beginning.
sense. Yeah. I mean, to me, it's just such a it's like almost understanding the client, but instead of a client, it's a competition. So understanding like what it is. I will tell you, the first year, and you were the winner the year that I had submitted, I was all about making a video presentation. That's what I like. And what I like is like a cool, like almost like I had like a hip hop beat, and it was like fast cuts, and it was like fast forward and slow down, and then all this stuff. And then I see Rance, you go like slow, like this pace of just barely moving. And it was what helped you really show everything. It was really cool. So it was definitely a lesson I took away from being part of the competition. So the next year, I still pressed it a little bit, did some fast and slow, but I definitely went wide and slow, and also took some other techniques that you did. So it's a really cool once you start seeing what other designers do, not only just to design, but to present. That was, I think, a big part of the learning curve on winning the second time I played. Or played, competed.
It's a game.
Played the game.
It was kind of wild to see like the differences from the beginning, because I entered first couple months in the industry, had no idea what I was doing. I just knew it was a competition. I knew my brother was part of it. I was like, all right, I'll enter one. My first pull was 3 rectangle pulls, all stacked up, had like a 15-foot drop to the next one on a hillside. Terrible pull design. And then just kind of slowly seeing like what other people entered, what their ideas were. That's always been the cool part. And then slowly like the graphics have kind of become better, seeing like every year what comes out with the graphics, and then how other designers come up with solutions to the problems is always cool.
your viewers know what the $1 Million Pool Challenge is?
Yes. So
Okay.
we actually, Reed was on and we talked about it. So if you don't know what a $1 Million Pool Challenge is, I guess we should preface it real quick. So it's a design competition where everybody has the same project, the same site, the same client, and they're all trying to come up with a solution. And the $1 million is a minimum, and it's so to design ultimate projects. So that's real quickly what it was for. And the concept is to teach people how to do that instead of when you get your first client that says, hey, I'll spend $1 million, and you have no earthly idea how to start or deal with the client or, some of the things they may anticipate or want. And also just to figure out new products and things like that too. So anyway.
Yeah, that's what makes it so fun and compelling for me is as designers in the industry, it's incredibly rare that you ever get a high budget construction budget project. And it's almost unheard of that you'd ever get a client that has an unlimited construction budget. And so this conversation is so fun.
They say that, but usually that's not the case. So
Yeah.
anyway.
Well, that's the fun. You never meet the client and have to like get the smelling salts out and bring them down, and like, you just kind of go for it. And yeah,
Sky's the limit. It's a lot of fun.
So with that, the opportunity to actually design $1 million, and then win it as well, did that create any opportunities afterwards? I know you just won, Moses,
Yeah,
so it's pretty fresh. So
this is one of my favorite opportunities I've gotten from it so far.
There you go.
This is a really good opportunity. I would say that it definitely challenges you. So even the year I didn't place, I mean, it challenges you. So it's a really cool, like, kind of skill to push yourself into and like muscle to grow. To do it. So I think it did help me not just win, the second time I went for it, but kind of into actual practical meetings. It helps you think a little bit more differently.
Yeah.
Like Mike said, even there's products and stuff that they encourage you to use. And so finding ways to learn about, like, part of the competition, you have to actually reach out to get extra points. You reach out to the product that's one of the sponsors. And so like the year that, I didn't place, I reached out to Riverflow, and at the time I had just done a Riverflow project, and so it was really cool to like be able to incorporate a lazy river, but then to really kind of like work hand in hand, know how to work hand in hand with them. If I hadn't had that opportunity to actually work with them before, this would be a great opportunity to do it through the competition because they want you to reach out and say, this is what I'm doing, and let them look it over. So yeah, I mean, it I would say, even though I haven't gotten to see the ripple effect yet, I'm really optimistic that it helped me even the times I did it before.
For me, I would echo what you said. Like the year that I won, there was the lazy river involved, and it was sponsored by Riverflow. And like you said, you needed to design it, but then you also needed to submit it to them, and so they could kind of give you some pointers on, hey, this is realistic, or it's not, or you need to make this change. Or they'll explain where intake and pumps and the outflow needs to go and all that. So that was definitely a learning experience because I had never done a lazy river before that, and so now I actually know a little bit about them.
Sure. As far as opportunity, the competition, definitely get your name out there. I mean, you can just see kind of as soon as you win. I know for a fact, like, you probably got a couple more followers. A lot of it being pool industry at first. And then typically you're going to see either Pool Magazine or Aqua Magazine, somebody write some articles and put some stuff online. It's cool to see that stuff pop up. It's really unique because you also get to meet a lot of the designers that you may have known from social media but never interacted with, and kind of see them in person if they do become finalists. Kind of like Brad, I didn't know him until the competition. Realistically, I'd heard of him and known he had been doing design work, but we had just never met before. Now we're friends, so... it's cool to meet that
bitter
community.
Enemies.
I couldn't imagine Brad with an enemy at all. He doesn't seem like an enemy kind of guy. So really kind guy.
Well, it's one thing that's interesting. People ask me all the time. It's like, well, there's so many of you in Dallas, Fort Worth. I mean, do you like compete against each other all the time? And like one of the things is people have asked me with me and Randy, because they're like, you guys have been doing this a long time. You guys must go against each other all the time. And I said, one time in my career.
Are you talking about Randy, who's arguably the best designer in America?
Yes, that Randy.
Okay.
So we've only, I guess he gets all anyway, no, I'm not even going to go there.
Yeah, but I mean, how many times have you had a project go up against each other in that way? I mean, it's
one time.
Yeah. I mean,
that's it.
It's not as much of a competition as I think the industry might have even been 10, 15 years ago. It's becoming more collaborative. So like we sat down and had a drink and got some food and just talked not too long ago. You and I have been in a text thread for a year and a half, just being goofy. I mean, it's definitely a little, I will say it's a selective group. You know, you don't want to be just like, there are some people that might be a little bit more, I don't know, cutthroat, but it doesn't have to be that way. It can be a lot more collaborative and, be more resources with our friendships and stuff like that.
The next segment is advice for aspiring designers. So, what advice would you give someone that's looking to enter the pool industry?
Oh, I think I actually did give somebody this advice. And that was familiarize yourself with what people are doing. And I think design is in a lot of ways, it's kind of like clothing. There are things that are fashionable, and you can look out there on social media and you can see like who some of the bigger accounts are, and you can see what they're doing, and kind of gives you an idea of where trends are going. But it can also, I think, maybe it can give you some inspiration. Because I think one thing that I got really big on, there was this Mark Twain quote, and I'll probably butcher it, but the sentiment was that there's no such thing as originality, that we're all kind of plagiarizing somebody else. And I think what he meant by that is like we're all taking existing ideas and trying to put our own little unique spin on it to make something, quote unquote new. And so I kind of think that everybody's trying to do that. So I think if you're kind of aware of what's out there and what can be done, maybe it kind of gives you some ideas on how to like put your spin on it, kind of come up with your own signature look.
So back in 83, long ago, when dinosaurs roamed the earth, my college professor said the greatest designer is the greatest thief.
Yeah, there's a book. There's a book out there that's like a little. I mean, it's cool. It's inspiring for what you're saying in that way, but it's true. Like, you'd make it your own, not like.
No, exactly.
Yeah.
You're not going to like copy it exactly.
Right.
You're going to take pieces. I mean, I tell people all the time, the more stuff that's in my head, the better I can design. Yeah. So the more I'm exposed to, which I think is what you're saying.
Like, for example, at some point people started using porcelain pavers for decking. And then it was like, well, why not make the porcelain paver, use that as the coping? And then somebody else had this idea that they would take two pieces of porcelain paver, cut it at 45 degree, miter it, and make the porcelain go down. And now that's the waterline tile too. So it's like, started with this thing, and then it became another thing because somebody put a spin on it, and then somebody put another spin on it and did a new thing, and then like that became the hottest trend, that past couple of years.
No, and I would say even just keeping up with things from the past too, like understanding and diving into like what the industry came from sparks new ideas sometimes of how to bring in a design detail that might have been really common in 83. To me, there's something that if you're looking for new things, sometimes you don't need to just look at the social media accounts, but look at what's been done. And I've listened to this podcast for a while, and I think the first or second episode you guys talked about that book that that company put out. You've referenced it a few times. I went and bought that book because I want to know, like, okay, what was the first outlet for a pool designer to look at? It was one book. So
Sunset Garden book.
Yeah. So like even finding those kind of things and looking, and what's cool too is you'll look at certain things that are still on trend, and it's like, oh, well, that's, we all want something that's going to last test of time, and it's cool to kind of know, okay, well, this works, and it's obvious it's worked because it's been around for longer than I was. So
there's a lot of brick coping in that book.
Maybe that's not the book I'm thinking, but there's a lot of coffee table books I've acquired that were from, I don't know, a long time ago, and it does seem like some really good design details just get a update. and so being able to know like, okay, well, this is something that is very relevant today, then I'm confident in, introducing it to a client.
Well, there was a pool book on pools by Kelly Klein, which is Calvin Klein's daughter. And she did photography of pools as art back in the 80s. And there's some pretty cool stuff in there.
I have that one. Yeah. Really cool.
I was told this when I first got into the pool industry, and I do believe it's true. And it's once you get in the pool industry, you can't leave the pool industry. You're forced into it. And I do believe that's true. Like no matter kind of what you do, you're going to be like, okay, I'm going to do something here in the pool industry. There's all types of jobs. For being a designer, if you like doing your own stuff and having your own designs, being creative, I would assume that what we do in pool design is maybe your most creative outlet of any of your architectural jobs or engineering jobs, just because most people that are architects are working for big firms. Typically, there's a couple big name designers that are doing the main design. Then you're just figuring out how to build it and doing plans. Whereas this, you can really go in, meet with a client. They have no idea what they want. Now it's your backyard, so you 100% have the ability to put your creation into their backyard, and that's within a day's return. So that's one of those things that if you are trying to be a designer and you want to be really creative and you like this, don't knock it because it's a pool industry. There's a lot of cool stuff going on, especially with how much money people are spending on their backyards now. It's definitely become a hot topic, I think, as far as the construction industry goes. And I'd definitely advise people to try to be designers if they can and if they like to be creative.
A lot of times you see something that happens to somebody and it's amazing that happened, and it was a crime that it happened, and you wished it hadn't happened to them. And so do you have any examples of things that you think would be a crime that if a client didn't get or they got and shouldn't have got, that type of situation? So just to educate homeowners on things they should be aware of that would make their project a better situation.
I think a really simple answer for that question is lighting. And I don't know that I've ever heard you guys talk about it, but I think it's pretty common to, check the box. Okay, this has lighting, and that's all it is. But there's lighting in the pool, out of the pool. There's a lot of things like that when it comes to lighting, if the person you're working with doesn't discuss, options and or why you're lighting certain things, I think that's a true crime.
So, okay. So embellishing on that. So we've got lighting in the pool. We've got like walkway lights, step lights, that type of situation.
I'll give an example. I'll give an example. I was accustomed to doing lighting facing up, and I've seen where a lot of people choose not to do that. So for me, I'm going to go into that detail with certain clients. If you have this, client, everybody always wants this view from here, and it's like so important. But then you have the lights in the pool, the only thing reflecting it. And so to me, I'm not saying everyone needs it, but if you don't discuss kind of understanding, okay, well, what level of importance is that? If we're lighting it because it's the most important thing, then why are we not going to light something like in a ledge facing up or something like that accents it? A grotto, you've done grottos forever, right? So I bet there was a time where no one put a light in the grotto. And it's bizarre that acceptable, like if you do a grotto, you don't do a light in it. That is a common thing in the pool industry. But if you have
so much better.
Well, it's common now, but take that same logic.
I'd say it's not common now.
Oh, okay. Well, in my mind, it's a must. If you have a grotto, a cave inside with no light at night, what's the point even?
It's a black hole.
Maybe there's a point, but you don't. We don't encourage that point, right? So to me, the idea is like if you have a water feature that's just as important, why not like a raised beam? Why not, talk about putting lighting into it? And again, not everybody needs it, but lighting, I think, is where it's not even just in the pool lighting, the number of lights. It's like, what is it that you're focused on? What do we want to create focus on?
Yeah. Where are you shining that light?
Yeah.
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 Well, I mean, we have features and there's no light on them.
Right.
It's like you should have a light over a sink, right?
Yeah, I have a video right now.
Sink lighting.
I'm working on kind of how to tell the story, but it's the idea of showing like what, one feature with light on, light on. And I mean, if I have that example, I'll show clients, it's very relevant if you don't do it. I mean, it's a totally different feature if you don't have that reflection.
Smart.
Think about those panels behind, like very cool architectural laser cut panels. Do those and don't put light on them. You just missed like, why did you have the cuts into them? Why did you
The
do
accent's
something?
gone
Yeah,
at night,
yeah.
but you put it there and it's the showpiece at night.
Yeah.
Yeah, or like earlier we were talking about, what separates a good design from an award-winning design, and yeah, I would say lighting is one of those things, because you could take the same exact design and have two different designers dress it up differently with lighting, and one is going to feel more special and dramatic than the other one, because one of them is going to put more effort into the lighting and the placement.
Yeah, totally agree.
And that's why you need the night shot to get your award.
If you want
Reference.
gold.
Just
Oh,
gold.
Yeah.
That's cool.
They'll give you awards, just not the gold.
Rance, do you like lights?
I like lights. Do I come up with a true crime right here?
Well,
You can if you want.
I'd say a true crime is most of the industry, I would assume, is not doing in-house, and they subcontract out work. They have their own trades. So it's been said, like, you're only as good as your trades. Well, if I were a client, I would want to know, hey, who are your trades you're working with? Have you been working with them for a long time? A lot of these companies, I'm not going to use any examples, but they will switch trades, different crews, almost every job, and it's wild to see. And that's one of those things that you want your trades to be kind of loyal to you, and they want to work with you, which is what we found. But it could be a crime. Like, I've heard of one company couldn't find anybody to do concrete for them, and then they went out and got some day laborers on I think it was like a $800,000 job just to do a couple thousand square feet of concrete decking, and now they're in kind of big trouble and upside down on it. But it's kind of some of those things. If you can't even keep your guys happy and they're not inspired by doing their work, it may not be the best company to kind of go with reputation-wise. And
so it's just, consistency of the work shows up with the consistency of the subs. So I never really thought about that. Yeah, there are companies that switch all the time. And also there's people that switch all the time because they owe people money.
Yep.
And that's why they can't stay consistent either, is they're robbing Peter to pay Paul.
Oh, yeah.
As it
Yeah.
commonly goes.
This is more of like a generality, but I think it also speaks to that question earlier when you were kind of talking about, how is the pool industry evolving or where's it going? And to my point earlier about the pools feeling more and more like a luxury product, I think for, a long time, for, a few decades ago, I think in a lot of ways, homeowners that were outside of the industry probably looked at a lot of pool builders the way a lot of people will look at like roofers. It's just kind of like, storm chasers, and it's sometimes. And you got a lot of like questionable people there that are showing up and like talking you into a new roof, and they'll take your deposit and they disappear, and no work gets done or half the work gets done. And I think my feeling was that the pool industry used to look a little bit like that as well. There was a lot of people showing up. They'd dig a hole and they'd take 2-year draw payments, and then they'd skip town and you'd never hear from them again. And I think the more the pool industry kind of sharpens its best practices, and the more it kind of moves into the luxury side, you're seeing a lot of it's like this filtering that's happening. It's like it's filtering out those kind of fly by night, questionable, shady people, and it's opening up a space for like reliable people who know what they're doing, who are not going to just take your money and run.
Yeah, I feel the further we get from 2020, the more filtered it's going to be. Because I feel like a lot of people jumped in on that wave around then.
Yeah.
What's the best piece of career advice you've ever gotten? And if you do remember who it's from, who's it from? That might be a one you got to think about for a second.
Oh,
man. From someone in particular.
It doesn't have to be from anyone.
We talk about design specific or just career in general?
Yeah.
I think the pool industry, because I really still feel like I'm new to it, and the pool industry, when I got into it, I realized And it's not meant to be too disparaging, but it's true. If you're in the industry, there's a lot of people who want to be home by 2:00, by 3:00. Like that's like, they like the pool industry because there's a flexibility to just get your day knocked out and go home. And I just realized, like, if you stay that extra 2 hours, 3 hours, like if you put more work in, it just shot so many more opportunities out in front of me because I was able to just really absorb as much as I possibly needed to early on. So I would say like that, like if you're liking the pool industry or you've been part of it for a while and you feel like, oh, there's, maybe just something new I need to do, or how do I get more into it? It's just that, like put a lot more time into it and then ask questions. Like there's a lot more community in the industry. So if you were to reach out to someone and just said, I really admire like the work you did, that detail you did, like, like just meet people, and not just the shows, but, online or when you're, I don't know, different places. Like if I see somebody who's wearing a company shirt and I'm at a restaurant, I'll go probably say hi to them, unless I know like, hey, they don't want to hear from me in the company I work at. Like I'll still go say like, hey, my name is Moses. I work at Claffy Pools. What do you do at that company? And it's pretty cool to me, like introducing yourself and kind of taking that extra effort, putting yourself out there, I think goes a long way in our industry.
I think if you're going to approach somebody somewhere in public, you should probably just lead with, hi, I'm Moses. Do you know who I am?
I mean, no, it hasn't gotten me any, you know the fame that comes with the $1 Million Pool Challenge. I don't know it yet. Okay?
the fame.
Yeah. No, I don't know. What do you guys think? Because I do think there is a lot of like just really putting yourself out there that our industry, like if you do it, it works. It's really good.
Yeah. Meeting other professionals. You and I talked the other night.
Yeah.
We were kind of talking about how, and it's not just our industry. It was in a lot of industries. I think for a long time, people felt really threatened by competition. And so it was almost like I have these, these secrets that are just, they're only for me, and I'm not going to share them with anybody, because if somebody else knows how I do it, then they're going to take my work away from me, and it's going to make my life harder. But like the truth is, I think when you start reaching out to other professionals, like you realize that everybody kind of wants to just build each other up. They want to share best practices and secrets. Like I think everybody, most people anyway, have this maybe like feel compelled to help and to teach.
I think our industry has a bad reputation over some bad horror stories. And what you're touching on is, it's like if you're giving good information to a colleague who's going to make the industry look good, that's a win for all of us, So it is about building up in that way. Yeah. And it is changing. I can respect it if 15, 20 years ago, that is not what pool people did. They wanted to keep everything close, but I think that there's a lot more resource now that people give and share.
Oh, yeah. I think with the show in general, that's kind of like what y'all are talking about. They have that existing, but there's also that reputation they have too.
Yeah. Well, and I mean, I'll point to Mike too. I mean, I have learned a lot from just your example of this. I mean, you have a lot of knowledge, but you've also been very open about sharing it with people. So I could have been year 3 and introduced myself after a class, and you maybe spoke a little bit more to like, oh yeah, that detail, I did this and I did that. And oh, I go to this tile place, like it wasn't this like, don't use my tile, like, which is what me and Brad were talking about. There was that for a while where it's like, oh no, I own that material. And it's like, no, you don't. Like, but the internet also changed that too, because social media has now become where everybody sees it. So it's not this like secret thing where, you can say like, I'm the only one. Yeah.
Right. It's open. It's not hidden. So people, you help other people. It only goes around. So, I mean, everything that I've done, I've got from somebody else. So, I mean, that's the cool thing about it. It helps us all.
Like if I had any career advice to give anybody though, and for any career, I keep going back to that conversation we had the other night. There's this
a good conversation.
This quote. Yeah, we should have recorded that one. The quote is something like, if you're gonna do something, do it to do it, not to say that you did it. Which to me means if you're gonna do something, do it because you're passionate about it, because you want to. Don't do it to pursue like status or clout. You know, just so you could say that you did a thing. Like, do it because that was the thing that you really wanted to do.
Yeah.
Because if you're doing something that you love every day, you're gonna be good at it, but you're also going to want to get better, and your work is gonna speak for itself. You're not gonna have to like try to get your work out there. It'll get noticed.
Yeah, don't create a checklist for yourself.
Yeah.
Rance?
ABC, always be closing.
Oh, yeah. There you go. A lot of people like that saying.
Yep.
Oh, yeah.
I met a few people that didn't know what that's from, and I love that. So if you don't know what that's from, don't say it. But I was just surprised that a lot of people didn't know what ABC is from. So if you don't know what it's from, look it up. I mean, it's really cool, especially if you're in a sales role. If you don't know always be closing what it's from, I mean, come on.
I think it'd be cool to talk about what y'all think, how the industry is going to evolve in the next 5 to 10 years, because it's evolved a lot since 9/11. It's evolved a lot since COVID. So, I mean, we have to talk about this concept, because when we go to a show and we go to like trends or anything like that, there's always designers in there. And a lot of times people are like, oh, they just told us to build another rectangle pool. You know, that's been trending for the past how long? While now.
Yeah.
But yeah, where do you see the industry going in the next 5 and 10 years or so?
It's going big.
I think it's going to be the individuals. I think the individuals are going to stretch themselves. So I don't know if it's just the industry. I think people are going to want to have a little bit more, I don't know. Like I had a project the other day and I was uncomfortable, and it was cool. It was cool to be uncomfortable because it was a little different, a little bigger, a little scarier, you know? So I think that's for people who are maybe more motivated and want to do more, like you're going to want to not just do the same thing. So it's kind of stretching yourself and as an individual, I think a lot of individuals will change, but the industry's changing a lot. I mean, just the way design firms are coming together, and it's becoming a whole different thing. I think, companies will have to be aware of how it's changing. So, I mean, I don't know, design driven only spaces, I think, are going to be a big thing.
Yeah, I definitely. It's already becoming a luxury good. I think, 1, 2, 3 decades ago, pools were more accessible to a lot of people. It was much more affordable. And there's a lot of reasons for that. Like I think best practices and standards and safety protocol and materials, all that stuff's just gotten more expensive because pools are made better than they used to be. That's part of it. But also, just the trends. People are wanting bigger and more expensive, more lavish, more unique things, and it's really. The pool industry feels to me like it's moving further into like the luxury market, which isn't to say that there won't be a portion of that market that will be, more accessible and approachable for everybody. But it seems like the sensational part of the pool industry, which I kind of feel is like where we exist somehow, is really just moving further and further into like a luxury item.
Yeah, I mean, or maybe even I've seen it a little bit more of like, it's a cliche way to say it, but it's true. There was a time where viewing it more as like an extension of the home has become the norm. So we were all probably part of that time. That's the norm now. So imagine like at one point it was just about a pool, maybe some decking, and that was it. So, I mean, you're absolutely right. It's becoming more of a luxury item to have that outdoor space, that extension of the home.
So one of the classes I went to at the show was, it was taught by some guys that would build decks, and their subject was biophiletic design. Mm-hmm. And the aspect of bringing people into the outdoor space and building the space for them to enjoy, which, I've said biophiletic design for most people is their interior designers are doing it, and they're bringing natural things into the house so people can feel nature. We have everything in biophiletic design that you want except the space, so we need living space. And I see that you'll see more and more spaces that people will go into and be surrounded by the outdoor environment that we create. So a cabana typically is attached to the home and kind of an extension. I see that there may be spaces in the yard that'll be in the center of the yard, and it'll be totally surrounded by water and landscaping and the whole environment, and it'll just be a space to go and enjoy. The crazy thing, when I went to Italy years ago, I toured a ruin, and this emperor had a space in the garden that was his favorite space in the whole space, and it was surrounded by a river. Okay, so I said it was the first lazy river, but but this is in concept. I see that's where we may be going more and more, where people can just live in the space of nature that we've created around them. So anyway. I don't know. I see that, people are going to do more and more. The other thing that's happening is they're getting smaller and smaller, and they're getting bigger and bigger. I mean, we've got projects that are tiny now that people are spending a lot of money on a space that's as big as this room. And they want all the cool stuff in that little bitty space. But then we have people that are doing estates that want crazy stuff too. So anyway, that's all fun.
Yeah. Rance, do you see any trends for our niche?
He said go big. So
Yeah, I think it's definitely getting bigger. Everybody kind of realizes price of houses has skyrocketed. So now it seems a lot more justifiable for somebody who spends $600,000 to $1 million on a house to drop $150,000, $200,000, even more into their backyard just to kind of even that out. Whereas I think 20 years ago, a nice house was $300,000. Realistically, $100,000 pool kind of made sense just numbers wise on kind of evening things out. So I think the higher the prices of houses go, the more people are going to put into their outdoor living just because it makes sense kind of as like a balance. And I think a lot more people are trying to get outside because of since COVID as well. So a lot more people are investing to try to keep, their family and their friends and have people come have those outdoor experiences at their own house instead of having to travel or go to other places.
I think with that too, adding, I'm seeing more and more people, like if we're talking about like what's developing, it used to be where someone built a pool once in their life. And now it's becoming where if they build a home 3, 4, 5 times in their life, they've probably built a pool at least 3 of those times, you know? So I think that's also changing in that same way with that way of thinking. It's just becoming more common to where you have to do a pool. Should say it's probably in our area at least, but in certain ways it is just becoming where more and more people are just building backyard projects because it's become more normal.
One thing too that's a little bit different is that, people I think are realizing that they have valuable real estate that they can develop in their backyard.
Yep.
Instead of doing a house addition, we can do an outdoor living addition.
Yep.
And we can live there more than if we added another bonus room on the house.
Yeah.
And so I see that more and more people are looking at that square footage as we can develop that and create something that's really, unique and awesome for our family, instead of, moving to another bigger house or something like that. We can just actually develop the space we have.
I agree.
Totally agree.
Yeah.
And it's good in theory until they want a bathroom, right? Because then they want a bathroom, then want a sink, like those kind of things. That's not to say it can't be done and that we don't get opportunity to do them, but yeah,
the $20,000 thing.
It's becoming it's a little bit of back to that thing of why the $1 Million Pool Challenge is great, because you don't have to tell them, like I can put in 3 sinks if I want, and I can do all these kind of things. So
You can make the whole thing out of nothing but
Just
sinks.
sinks, yeah.
It can just be all sinks.
yeah.
Did you get a pool? No, but I got like 20 sinks.
Yeah, 20, at least 20.
So some of my friends that are not in the pool industry, when the TV shows that got more popular, they would talk to me about those TV shows. And one of my friends in particular, he would say, I noticed that everything's a feature. fire feature, water feature, like, that kind of stuff. So to me, it's like the sink is a feature. It's like, here's the sink feature. We have 5 sink features.
Yeah, look, you can run water and then it disappears.
Yes. Yeah.
It's great.
Outside.
Very expensive. What? A very expensive feature.
That's funny. The next thing I want to talk about is the most challenging projects y'all have worked on, and how y'all overcome those issues or those obstacles. And I have a follow-up question that kind of is like very similar, but it's like the project you would stamp like I'm most proud of this. And sometimes those correlate, sometimes they don't. So
most challenging, I'm just gonna tell on myself, and this was a lesson learned. Like it was generally my failure in communicating something or asking the right question, and those are really hard lessons learned. When you either don't hear something that somebody has, like a client has told you they wanted, or you picked up on a cue that they weren't actually putting out, and you designed something that was like way more than what they were asking. That can be hard to come back from, and you learn to listen better and to ask better questions.
This is like during the initial design process, is where
Yeah.
That is a challenge, but I think the more you do it, you get more in that comfort space of knowing how to really press them to not over or under design. I think the the story that comes to my mind, I had a chance that was probably I'd say challenging. I probably won't say, because I have a like patient relationship. What is that term where you're not supposed to tell on?
Oh yeah, like a
confidentiality. Yeah. So I've had some tough clients, and it's like a confidentiality thing. Like I'm not going to tell on them, but I would say that's more under construction projects. The one that comes to my mind though is I had someone in the industry reach out and say, hey, I have a sibling, I have a sister, and she wants something very different, and I just feel like you guys would be a good fit. And so that was probably one of the first examples of kind of going into it the right way, but not necessarily just taking it and run with it. But it was an opportunity to kind of really pick her brain, understand what they needed, what's their wants, and it was a challenge, because a good example, and it's a very cliche, but they wanted a sunken seating area, and it was a flat yard. So it's like figuring out all those kind of elements, but really making them come together in a way that didn't feel forced but unique. So they wanted modern, but they were much more of like a natural space kind of person. And so it was cool to even get into like the types of materials we use for the decking, how we didn't want something that looked like travertine. We wanted it to be a lot more natural, organic feeling. And that project is one I'm super proud of. It definitely got a lot of traction on social media. It was the one that was on the cover of Aqua Magazine, and it's just been one that really stands out as like a challenge, but it was a fun challenge. It wasn't anything that was like devastating. It was more like encouraging. Like it was like one that made you say, okay, I'm looking for the next challenge.
Is that the job you're most proud of?
I would say I'm proud of a lot of jobs, but it's just one that stands out. There's another one before that I would say in the similar way. I'll never forget this client. I won't tell the whole story, but it was one I was proud of in that same way, where I met them and just kind of designed something that was very much like, they came to me and said, I have a design. We're going to go with this other company, but we said we're going to get a third. And so I said, fine, I'll just kind of you're giving me a lot of freedom. I'll just do something fun. And I met them 3 days later, and we contracted for like $120,000 more than what their other pool that they were like going to go with was. And I'll never forget that lesson, because it was almost like I got out of my own way, because we design in this space of being like, okay, they want these things. And if you do that, you become kind of a list taker. And there's nothing wrong with knowing what they want, but if you just like check, I did a spa, I did a pool, I did that. Like I thought a little bit more outside the box, and it was fun. I think that's one I'm very proud of, and that was early on. I still talk to that client to this day. And the other one was just really also just one that stood out, because it was a very challenging space to just kind of put together something that I felt was pretty unique.
That's awesome. Thank you for sharing. Rance?
Like Moses said, usually not too many difficulties other than like once it gets to construction. And that's where you will find being a designer. You can design some crazy stuff. Can you build it? That's where you really find out like, I don't know. So you'll definitely find like struggles once it comes to real construction and finding out that solution. Our biggest issue we had was just one of those random spring days in Texas where there's no rain on the forecast, and already kind of did plumbing still on a big hillside, and then got I think like 3 inches of rain that night or something. A couple downspouts that we did not misdirect either, and that forced to a pretty large cave-in. We did figure it out, got it fixed. That'd still be the project that probably most proud of too, which is right there on Lantana Golf Course. It was 5 feet of slope and 30 feet of backyard and dropped straight off. Nice. So we had to tackle that. We had that cave-in issue, which was pretty surprising, but homeowner was awesome. We were somewhat prepared for it to happen. So it wasn't the craziest issue, but it ended up being a beautiful project, kind of right into that slope. And yeah, your biggest issues are always construction. Design-wise, you can kind of get through the programs and kind of work with things. It's sometimes hard with clients if they don't make up their mind on certain materials, and a lot of clients will sit there and they'll only focus on material when in reality, sometimes you just need them to sign the contract, and then the materials can come whenever they're looking at them in person and not necessarily right there when you're doing the 3D design in front of them. But that's it for the most part.
The thing I'm most proud of, and it's not like this big, overblown, exceptional design, but it was just an experience that I had with a client. It was a family, husband and wife, and they had, at the time, they had recently lost their daughter to a tragic accident while they were on vacation. And I think they were still in the throes of grief. They were renovating their home, and then they were renovating the backyard. And I think in a big way, they kind of wanted to like dedicate the backyard to her memory. And I was able to. They didn't tell me details about her, and I didn't ask because it's you never know, like if it's going to be okay to bring things up like that. I think at the time, I think I had just had my second child, and so I'm like fully in the trenches of like parenthood, and just like thinking that kids are like the most magical thing ever. And so I found some information online because I wanted to see if I could learn more about her, because I wanted to really personalize it and make it special. And so I learned some details, and I included a few things in the design. And then when I went to present it to the husband and wife, they were just like blown away, and they were like, how did you know to include that stuff? And I was like, I have my ways. But they were adamant that she was speaking to them through me. Whether or not that's true, it felt really special for me to give them that feeling. And I think I came back later, a couple months later, for like a site visit after the project was underway, and where I had placed this spa, which is where they said they were going to be spending most of their time, they had poured her ashes there, and they had like this ceremony. And so I was showing up after that had happened, and after the gunite had already been shot, and then he kind of opened up. He was telling me more about his daughter and her life and her impact and all this stuff. And I think like by the end of that conversation, I gave him a big hug, and like for a minute, I just didn't want to let go of him. And I left holding it together, and I think I got in my car and I like just drove away crying because I was just thinking about the whole thing. But that felt really special because I made that feel special for them.
That's awesome.
The memories and emotions that you can evoke in a space is it's really special what we can do and help people to create things that they won't ever forget. So, I mean, that is some of the coolest things we get to do with our job.
Yeah.
No doubt.
What do y'all think separates an award-winning design and a good one?
Pictures.
That's
Pictures is really good. Yeah.
Yeah, that's true. That's a really good answer.
If Jimmy's taking your photos or not.
He's a good photographer.
Shout out to Jimmy Smith.
Yeah.
I think of everyone but me, I've never had a photo shoot by him.
I haven't either.
I have not
No?
either.
No?
But
Okay.
we'll get
well,
them scheduled.
yeah, no, I never have, but
No, that's because me and Trey like to take our pictures.
Oh,
yeah,
yeah.
that's true. That's true. No,
fun.
I think pictures is a great answer. I think it's some of the taking something that is familiar, but then twisting a little bit of your own, thought into it. I think. And then if you've ever submitted for the awards, it's the story. Like they want to know a good story to what you're doing.
They want to know a good story, and then I've been told you can't get a gold without nighttime pictures. So,
really?
I've heard that.
So that may be something out
You-
there for
you
the
want-
people. You
That
need to
checks
get
out.
nighttime photos.
You
so-
want the whole pool to be in one frame, like left to right. You want it to all be in there. So.
True.
Good night shot, fire, water feature, stone decks.
sync features.
Oh,
I
Sync
think it's-
features.
yeah.
Features.
Sync
Sync.
Features.
yes,
yeah.
we need more
Having-
sinks.
20 sinks. Yeah. Just details. You can take, call it a $150,000 pool and just really dressing it up with some very specific and thoughtful details. And it just changes everything. Just fine details change everything.
It's all in the
And
details.
pictures. And pictures.
Also pictures. Has anybody
Other
seen
details.
pictures?
Have you thought about pictures?
No, I hadn't thought about that.
Okay.
I want to start doing pictures.
Eventually, they're going to get to where you have to submit a video, and they're going to be showing your video on the
Oh,
awards.
that would be
Some
awesome.
moving pictures.
But yeah, to be
Who would've
to
thought?
be specific, you need pictures digitally, not like a Polaroid or like print. You need it to be able to submit online, right?
It hasn't been done yet. So.
You can't
Wow.
submit like with smoke signals or send it in through the mail.
Paintings.
This
I'm
is
just
your
gonna
chance.
submit
Hey, you know what? I will
photos.
say, and this is not controversial or whatever, but I think there's been renderings that have been submitted, and I don't know if they've won or not, but that's a picture, but it's
Food for
not.
thought.
yeah.
I've seen a lot of
I think I-
renderings online that looked so realistic where I'm like, wait a second, is this
No,
real or not?
that's what I'm saying. I think
Yeah.
it's
I think that's a very serious accusation.
I'm making I'm throwing some.
The cover of
Shit.
Luxury Pools several years ago
Uh-oh.
was done, and someone was like, I want that color of slide. And they're like, it was graphically created. that slide color doesn't exist.
Oh, it was Photoshop.
And so, well, hey, it was Luxury Pools, so they can do whatever they want. It was an award. So, but yeah, it was one of the Splinterworks slides.
Oh yeah, that's more art than it is slide.
Yeah. So it was.
That's their motto, right?
Is it?
No, I'm
Oh.
kidding.
It should
I
be.
guess it is
That's pretty
now.
good.
So it was a
That's
white.
beautiful.
It was done in white instead of stainless steel. And so what's funny is it does now exist, but at the time of the issue came out, it did not. So anyway,
Well, I mean, the dead giveaway. Like if you it's like just an AI generated pool, is it's gonna have like 7 fingers. So
Mm,
yeah,
I haven't seen
instead
that
of
one yet.
5.
I think I'm
yeah.
gonna submit an AI to the award competition this year. See if we can get it to win one.
That's
Just as a total disguise.
that seems like $150 well spent for a
Yeah.
joke.
If you want to know the future of the pool industry,
Yeah,
it's right here. Look no further than Rance. Rance is
Ah.
the future.
AI.
Are y'all worried
Coming.
that? Yeah. Are you worried that AI might take out the design industry one day?
Not if we're the first ones on top of it.
Okay.
Although
Um,
it's very close.
I'm not worried yet. I've seen the 3D AI stuff, and
True.
we've got time.
Okay. Good. I haven't seen it yet, so I'm hoping it's bad. So the next thing I want to talk about are common mistakes you've seen. Either that be what common mistakes do you see homeowners or designers make when it comes to pool and outdoor living projects. So that could be their expectations coming in for the first meeting or whatever.
I think something that's super relevant is we strive to find a modern approach to things, but it's becoming quicker. But imagine like this beautiful project that we do today. By the time it's designed, moves to contract, builds, and then the plants get in, like it might be like, it's several years later. So if you're looking for the most relevant ideas, it's not a picture that you find on the internet, because that is 5-10 years old most of the time by the time you get to it. So I think like the internet is a great resource, but it is this kind of thing where it's two things I see. You get advice from the internet, which sometimes regionally doesn't apply to where you're at. You have to keep that in mind. And then two, it might just be old ideas. So finding the right designer to kind of collaborate with and know what's good for your space is something I think sometimes people come knowing what they want, which is totally, it's good to be informed, but realize that you know what you want, but you're learning it from ideas that might be 5 years old. And then even to add to that, I think a lot of times we go to our parents for advice. So if your parents built a pool, they might have built one 20 years ago, and they are dead set on you should do this, you should do that. And there's a lot of that where you get that advice.
Brick coping?
Brick coping or,
saltwater pools.
Saltwater. I mean, and again, they're in the right application. I would love to do brick coping on a project that made sense and it was really unique with it. Brick details is beautiful. But if you're getting that advice from information that's not as relevant, I think that's a common problem. Would you agree, Rance?
Sometimes.
Oh, okay.
No, I would agree. I'd also say budget. Some people, I mean, that's the hardest thing is getting your head around budget, because there's your standard kind of pool budget, getting you wet, that's it. And then there's your landscaping, your cleanup, access, a lot of those details that most people don't think about. They just think about, hey, I want a $100,000 pool. That's it. They don't think about the $50,000 worth of landscaping and repair and all those details. And that's what's really hard to, as a designer, to like kind of set those expectations, not disappoint anybody, and then really kind of kill it on the design while factoring in their budget, knowing that they can't accomplish something that they think they can for the price that they want to spend. So,
yeah, making a budget mistake really hurts. I still do that. I think like the probably my worst offense was I worked with a family that had like a $400,000 budget, which is significant, and I unknowingly and accidentally brought them an $800,000 design, and that was really embarrassing. But beyond blowing someone's budget out of the water, no pun intended, is not doing enough research on setbacks and limitations. Spending 20, 30, 40 hours on a design and having the homeowner love it, and it's within the budget, and it's perfect, it's got everything, and then you go submit it to either the HOA and or the city, and they're like, yeah, you can't build this. You're 5 feet into the setback, or you just designed a 800 square foot shade structure outdoor living room, and you're not allowed more than 200 square feet. You just go, oh no. Then you got to walk that back, and that's it feels shameful.
And they're all different.
Yep.
And that's the worst part is they change. So the worst thing is when you get approval and you do the whole 9 yards, and then, we hired a new person to run the fire department. And so the fire chief has changed the codes on what our fire is allowed in the backyard. And you can't build this that we spent 3 years developing.
Wow,
Yeah.
that sounds awfully specific.
You got
Familiar, huh?
Yeah, it does.
you got 20 sinks back there. Now they only allow 15.
Yeah.
And
Mm.
it's like, boy, we're really gonna have to walk it back.
Well,
And
it would have
these
been
people got dirty hands. They got really dirty hands. So you have to make sure that you at least get 5 in there.
Oh, yeah. Maybe we should add a sink. And that way the fire would work.
Yeah.
All three of y'all are designers, so
Allegedly.
yeah.
We
maybe
have
you're
books.
using AI.
We have books. we have books, and we design.
Yes. So y'all are.
All it takes.
How do I phrase this? What issues do you have? Because it's going to happen to everyone
Lots.
that designs
Lots of
pools.
issues.
Issues.
But when it comes to someone constructing the pool and it's not in your vision, so how much are y'all interlock step with the construction itself? Whether that be a PM or whoever's building the job. And when problems arise, typically, you have a method to the madness to fix things. How does that process work?
Do we ever have mistakes happen?
Y'all are perfect.
Never made a mistake.
Never mind. Next question.
no.
Okay, we're designers.
No,
it was designed to be like that.
I'll say so. I stepped into a new team 2 years ago. I'm still learning what I call collaboration, and I love collaborating. So, that sounds like I'm romanticizing, but it's true. Like I have what I've called like so when I come up with a concept, I respect the superintendent, project manager, who wants to put their thumbprint on it. That's what I would say. And so what that really means is, as a designer, sometimes that means they're changing a detail. And so how much of that you fight for, and sometimes you don't. And sometimes it's because it's better to build this way or that way. I have such a cool team where I have drafting that sometimes can see that thumbprint. They want to put, better detail into it, more detail into it. And so to me, I'm still in that phase of learning. It's only been 2 years, but learning how best to give and take on that. So I don't know if that resonates with you guys on it, but I think there's a little, like if there's a true problem in the field, I want to be as involved as my project manager will allow me to be, or as involved as the homeowner wants me to be. But I also respect, because I trust the superintendent, the project management I have right now. I mean, I love it. So to me, like they're going to resolve an issue is how I feel. And so, I want to be as involved as they want me to be.
Perfect. Rance or Brad?
I would give a lot of authority to a builder. Especially if they're like a really seasoned builder who knows what they're doing and has a good reputation for producing good work. Because a lot of times they might know of things that maybe you hadn't thought of out in the field. Because for me, it's totally different when I'm sitting in front of a computer and I'm just drawing really pretty pictures.
Yeah.
Even if it is a design that can be built and the client loves it, once you get it out into the field, the reality can be a little bit different when a contractor goes to start building it. If you've got somebody who really knows what they're doing, like a Peter Jackson or a Justin Brown or a Tal Tevino, they can come back to you and be like, hey, this was a really cool detail. I see what you're going for, but did you ever consider that, maybe you could just change it like this, or maybe use a different material and you might be able to achieve the same look and maybe even save a little bit of money. Would you be open to doing that? And then it becomes more collaborative. Yeah. And I think that's great because they might be able to do something more efficiently or save money or get it done faster or build it better. If it's something that you couldn't have thought of yourself or you just didn't think of it, then the homeowner is better for it.
Yeah.
Agreed.
So Rance, you have a unique situation in the fact that you're both.
Yes. So that's what's kind of cool about us three designers is we're designers in totally different roles now. I believe Moses has project manager working kind of for the same company and kind of deals with the same project managers that have been doing it for years. And then Brad's doing a lot more designs where he will have to trust individual builders and their project managers by themselves. Whereas now, shout out Verde Outdoors, I'm designing, selling, and building. So I can actually have that detailed touch, and I don't have to focus as much being a designer where I kind of like the margins worked out and you'd had to kind of sell quite a bit, and then you'd have to really trust your project managers or whoever's building it. Whereas now I don't have to sell as many pools to make our margins, and I can really focus in on those details that I kind of strive for being a designer. I like this route just because I have kind of full control. Yes, there's still going to be some things that pop up in construction that may change up the design, but as far as materials and kind of not having the switch hands between the client and myself being the designer, that's nice because one thing you always run into as well if you have a project manager or another builder is you may be working for the client and you may be solving a problem for the client that you've talked about. Well, then when the project manager gets on field and they're doing construction, well, they'll bring up something. And I've had it before where they'll kind of like throw you under the bus because you didn't I guess, do something the right way, and then the homeowners gets frustrated because they're in the build process, and now the project manager is telling them what you told them prior, but they didn't want to spend the money on. So some of those details you kind of can fix since you follow it through the whole way from the design to the sell to the actual project managing.
Wearing all hats, is it nice to put your like thumbprints in construction? Because obviously it can annoy some designers when they're in the field and they change something, but since you're the one actually doing it, is that satisfying? Or
it's a lot easier to communicate with the client, I can tell you that.
Okay, yeah, that
so
makes sense.
it's very simple to be like, hey, now that we're here, I'm noticing this. This is my recommendation, because I can just come at them so quickly before they even have time to check it. I'm building it, and I kind of know anything that pops up beforehand, whereas you may be kind of done with the client and you're checking on your jobs, having somebody else build it. Well, then if it gets to that point and they notice it first and then they'll call you out, that can be frustrating for them. So it is nice to be part of the construction portion.
Better, the communication path is shorter because there's one less person involved. So, that helps, I'm sure.
So you're like Thanos with all 6 of the gemstones. Just like, I have all of the power.
Trying to be.
Mostly
That's
what
really
I heard
cool.
you say is that you take all the responsibility. So you get mad at yourself when you make a mistake or when you find something out in the field.
No, I don't. Yes, I did. No, I don't.
I've actually never made a mistake.
That's right. That's
So-
good.
Because he's
Like
got
that.
books, man.
I have no books.
Yeah. No, I think it's cool too that there are so many different approaches, but
Yeah.
there's also like, to me, a good fit for each client. Some people want that more
Yes.
hands-on one person. Some people want more of a team and a large support.
Yep.
And then some people want just to delegate the design only, and then they'll do the footwork, for finding their builder. So wild.
I didn't realize we'd pulled all 3 together here. So
Yeah.
interesting.
No, it's interesting. That also, Moses, that leads into when you design something and unfortunately someone matches it with a lower price and it falls through the cracks. Or so how are y'all pretty much just hands off with the design, or do y'all hear back from them? And how do you deal with customers that they don't build with you, but you did the design work on? Does that ever happen to
Yeah,
y'all?
if you're addressing me first, I mean, I would say I know I'm not the right fit for everyone.
Yeah.
So that's a comfort that I think you get experience with, and you say, that's okay. This is a interview process, and if I don't make the cut, that's okay. I think that one thing I would add, especially to people who are learning design and have that, thing come up, is if I can do my job well and I still don't win the job, if the client calls me and tells me like they're going another direction, that lets me know like I did everything, to earn their respect, to be able to have them kind of give me that courtesy of saying like, hey, it's almost, sometimes you can tell too, they feel bad, and I'm not happy they feel bad, but it just lets me know like they felt like there's that loyalty to at least even say, hey, look, I'm going another route. And they'll kind of give you, if you ask, especially, they'll give you more information. So it's a learning experience whenever you have that kind of opportunity where you're not the one that get to build the project. I think most of the time, though, the answer is like Brad touched on, there's just details. So even if it's a very minimalistic job, I've actually had the experience to go visit jobs that I didn't get to build, and you see the difference. And I think the homeowners, again, if they chose you for one reason or another, or chose you not to go with you, I try not to like just convince myself, oh, they're going to miss me. But there is some part of like, I know what I was planning to do. Even if it's a very minimalistic project, those details probably didn't come together the right way. And at least from experience, I know, Mike, you've told me about a project or two you'll keep up with just to go, kind of know like what happened. And it's not about rubbing it in their face. I would never do that. But I do think there is a little bit of like, it's interesting. Oh, you had a rough experience. Oh, it didn't come together that well. I'm sorry, and I'm serious. Like I didn't want that for you, but it's good to at least know that and to have that relationship to where I can see it or hear about it later. That's good. They've never been broken up with. Every job they've ever done, they got to. So,
Brad, you can answer. I'm kind of the same answer from last time from me.
with the question being,
It's pretty much like if you don't get the job and it falls through the cracks, typically this will happen when someone is at a lower price, or maybe the design is just more, whatever it might be, right? How do you like when customers, talk to you afterwards and tell you, hey, we're going with someone else? Do you check up on jobs and stuff like that to see? And you're pretty much remote, so you're building all over the place, right?
yeah.
So this might not really correlate to you as much.
Well, but I mean, I spent plenty of time in
Sure.
that kind of a business model where people are shopping you, and yeah, and I don't think rejection gets any easier ever.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Do all three of y'all charge design fees?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
Yeah, where I'm at, I have the option to.
Yep.
And so there's a lot of projects where certain relationships we have, say it's referrals or different things like that, it's not, it's not something that we choose to do, but there are projects where it makes sense to do, depending on the scope of it,
Okay.
a design fee.
If you could design your dream pool or your outdoor space with no budget constraints,
Well,
what
it's
would
the
you
$1 million
include?
pool challenge.
Yeah, exactly. But let's tame it down and just like the key features you really would want.
This is a personal project.
It's a personal preference, yeah.
I have a thing I'm chasing, and one day I'll do, but it has to be for the right project. But I want to do a true circle pool, but get real creative with the inside of what you do with the spa, the tan ledge, even how you would enter the pool, like finding this really creative. And I've seen some examples of it. So again, it's not, it's like an idea that I've seen, and I want to make my own. But it is very, very. I think because above ground pools were circles, nobody really wants that. So an in-ground circular beautiful design is something that I have thrown out when someone's like, I want something so different, I'm a creative thinker. I say, what about if it's the right yard? What about? And then you'll see them kind of like, well, I'm not that out there. Like I don't want to go that far, but I'm thinking rectangle, like that kind of thing. So
You're thinking like a reflection pool? Because I've seen some really cool reflection pools that are pure circles.
so I'm sure we for inspiration have seen what I'm talking about, but less of like a negative edge, but
Okay.
more of a true just a circle pool. And the reason is there's just, the way everything's built is perimeter. So imagine like a circle, you can make this really cool big body of water and create, instead of a lagoon feel, it's a very modern, geometric shape, but it's circular. Instead of it being like, there's one that's online right now that's a really cool build, and it's this big lagoon. It doesn't look like a pool. It is a gunite pool, but it's just like negative edge just leading it. I'm sorry. It's like a beach entry all the way around, but that's like organic. I'm saying like a true modern, I don't know, not a negative edge spilling over circle, but just like I have ideas, but anyways, it's my white whale. I want to catch that thing and design and build
The
it.
one penner.
Yeah. Yes, exactly.
You need to find a good designer that can design that for you, I think.
Yeah. No, I trust you.
Workshop that.
I have had I've toyed with the idea and put it into some renderings, and it's gonna be fun.
That was your $1 million pool challenge concept in Chicago. It was a simple.
Yep.
Wasn't it?
I'm not
Yeah,
talking
I
an
mean, just like
oval. I'm not talking an oval.
No, his
Or a
wasn't an
circle.
oval.
No, mine was kind of like a trapezoid shape of some sort, but very simple, not crazy at all.
The simplicity is.
I like the idea of a circle. I'm gonna
Yeah.
steal it from Moses, and I'm gonna do it right before
You know,
all the awards.
there's a common thing right now I'm seeing, at least peers, and maybe you guys have been part of it. I don't know, Mike, if you have probably the most experience of anyone I know. But even imagine a circle, and that idea, the pool draining down.
Oh yeah.
So imagine like, that's what I'm saying. Like you can do like a different level into like where your spa is exposed, and now you have dry steps by bringing down that water level. I mean, there's a lot that you could do, and it's a very modern look. But again, you say circle and people think you're talking about like an above ground pool. So that's no ladders, no, Brad, circle pool.
Me, I think the perfect pool is the friends we made along the way. Yeah.
Aw.
hate that answer.
No, I think it would just be I'd probably have to match it to like my like dream house, which would be somewhere like on a hillside out in the forest, and you just have this big acrylic panel on the back with an overflow, just looking out across a valley or something with it's just someone with an awesome view. You could just sit there on the back beam, just looking out. That'd be awesome.
My dream pool would have to include a surf wave.
Ooh, yeah.
That's definitely on the bucket list.
You
So
win.
whoever's out there wants to do a surf wave, let me help you with that design. Cause
We had them on podcast
We
like
did. Yep.
about 6 weeks ago.
yeah.
Mhm.
What was their company again?
Flow Rider.
Yeah, flow rider. That's right. Yeah. So I want to do a flow rider. That's my style as far as pool, and kind of enjoying it. Kind of get a bit of a workout. I know I'm still a little bit younger, so maybe that might turn into like kind of relaxing. That might change over time, but as of right now, I still would like to get that activity out of the pool. Being on a cliffside would be awesome. But that's my number one go-to is the surfing pool.
Awesome.
Shout out to Katie, my wife, and my dog Waffles. Katie's basically like a professional wake surfer, so she'd love it too.
Oh, wow.
My 4-year-old, she likes to surf too. So shout out to Olivia, and my wife Misty. She's with Olivia right now. So
I don't know anybody that can surf, so I can't shout anybody out. Sorry, everybody.
Well, you might as well shout out to your boys and wife. Anyway.
I do want to shout out to my boys, Nixon and Miles. It's probably just about bedtime though. So go to bed.
Shout out to them. I would do a swim up bar and sunken fire pit. You probably just do boulders everywhere.
does anyone else notice how Trey sounds more like Matthew McConaughey when he says that? Like it's sunk up bar, fire pit.
Sunken bar.
All right.
All right. Okay. Before we our time runs out, how do you celebrate a win and like winning the $1 million pool challenge? How did y'all celebrate that?
Alcohol.
Ooh.
A lot of alcohol.
You went to Italy.
Yes.
Whoa.
We used the prize money to pay for me and Katie's wedding in Italy. Was awesome. Go to Lake Como. That's a cool spot. That'll give you some inspiration on designs and kind of shows that timeless architecture that it's hard to, I guess, imitate here in Dallas. So
Is Lake Como where they had was it Star Wars was there?
yes,
Yeah.
that was the same venue we got married at.
That place is beautiful.
Wow.
It was cool.
Yeah, that was a flex,
Definitely.
man. I saw
Yeah, good.
those pictures. He won and he decided to get married.
Should have just
Good
got
answer.
married in Vegas, save some money. Bought a flow rider.
Yeah. My win was in Vegas also, and my wife wasn't able to be with me the first time that I competed, and she was when I won. And so we had this awesome night on the town. We went and saw a show. We went shopping. We just walked the strip, had some drinks, had like the most expensive dinner we've ever had in our lives. It was awesome. Yeah, Vegas is the place to win something. If you're gonna win anything, make sure it's in Vegas.
So the one person
Yeah.
that didn't win in Vegas.
No, so I won at home. It was about 20 minutes away from my bed. So it was my wife's birthday. So Misty and I mean that was such a cool experience. So I know exactly what you mean. Like just to have her there, and like it was her birthday, and it was like all this like, you know what? It was a Wednesday. Like she's like, we're not gonna celebrate my birthday. Let's just, let's go do this thing together. And for it to be the win, it was a really cool way to celebrate. But as far as, I mean, I didn't know you went to Italy with it. That's incredible. I feel like, I mean, our winnings are what I will tell my daughter one day was the scholarship that the $1 Million Pool Challenge created. So you guys, the first ever scholarship that the $1 Million Pool Challenge did was for Olivia Campos.
That's awesome. Well, that's pretty much it.
Well, I just want to thank you guys for coming on tonight
Yeah.
because you guys are very, very well known in the industry, but you also do a great job. I know all of your work individually and follow you all, so it's really cool to know that you could share all the stuff that you did today.
I had a lot of fun. I'm honored that you had me on, and I'm honored to be a part of the $3 million Roundtable.
Yeah.
Yeah. Absolutely. Thank you, Mike.
Yeah,
Thank you, Trey.
yeah. Thank you both. I'm a big fan of the podcast, so this is definitely the big opportunity that the $1 Million Pool Challenge gave to me was to get to be part of a podcast that I'm a fan of. So, thank you.
Well, thank y'all for coming.
We'll talk to y'all later.
Adios.